Yes, folks, good morning again. And we're looking at Beneath the Surface this morning, as today we conclude the whole series of Beneath the Surface 2 years later with the Honorable Chief Secretary, Farley Augustine, here with me this morning. And it has been quite an interesting week or 3 weeks of activities here doing this program. My name is Gerry McFarlane, and it was a pleasure doing this over the last 3 weeks, and the pleasure is even greater this morning when I have the Chief Secretary. Chief, I want to give you special thanks, and thanks for the opportunity to be here with us this morning. And many people all around the world commenting on this program, and they're looking forward to see you. This program coming to you from Port Moore in Scarborough, Tobago, on the greatest little island on the planet.
That's right.
And we're selling this thing, I like the phrase, I like the mantra, and so on. And we have to talk a little bit more about this as the program develops.
Sure.
But welcome to the program. Any opening statements you want to make?
Thank you for having me. Good morning to you. Good morning, Tobago. And happy to be here this morning. And we're in the month of December, so we are just circling Tobago Day celebrations. The Tobago House of Assembly this week celebrated 43 years since 1980. So that's the modern Tobago House of Assembly. But we are essentially 144 years since Tobago was forcibly joined with Trinidad, 144 years ago. And that happened in November. Queen Victoria signed that declaration in November, and it took effect January 1 the following year. So it's a good time to be alive, I think. We, as an island, as a world, we came out of COVID-19, something my generation certainly has never seen. We have never experienced before any sort of epidemic to the extent, there was HIV/AIDS, which was an epidemic, but certainly it wasn't the type that forced economies to shut down and islands to shut down, and we lose so many families and so on. And I think as we bring to a close the year 2023, we could look back and say we are over that hurdle to a great extent. We no longer have lockdowns. Yes, there's still some lingering impacts, such as the fact that we still can't get the number of pre-COVID flights back and all of those things, but certainly insofar as our health, our wellness, social cohesion, our ability to socialize and interact with each other, we have certainly come a long way since 2021 to now. And if you recall, when we had the election campaign in 2021, we had to have very small meetings. We had to have social distancing. We didn't, at least in my party, we did not even have many community meetings. We kept it all stationary in one place, in a studio, night after night. But thank God for where we are. And I think as an island, it's a good time to pause and to say thanks to God for what He has done for us and how He has kept us between 2019 and now, between the onset of COVID-19 and now. So we're happy that we're over that hurdle.
Definitely. And, and to see how the assembly and the institution, the assembly itself, has been working through that period, and even the last 2 years, the number of things that you all have pursued and so on, coming after COVID, this big pandemic, that affected not just part of the world or part of the planet, but the entire world was affected by this thing, So it's good to see how we come out looking pretty good, battered and bruised, but not, defeated.
Correct.
In any significant way. And I had the pleasure of interviewing all the members of the assembly on your side, on the government side, in the last couple of weeks. And, I must say that I was impressed with some of their contributions, how they look at life, how they came through as youngsters, grew up, became representatives eventually of the people. And one of the things that stood out for me in that discourse was the level of upbringing that all of them had. You saw and you actually felt and they experienced what we have here in Tobago as a quote where the village brought up a child. The village raised a child, fairly good parents. A lot of them were one parents, children, children from one parent or helped by one parent. And I was really impressed. You ought to be proud that you have a group of assemblymen and councillors who really working their head and other parts off,
Well, the truth is, I am proud. I am proud that I have a team that is working tirelessly, working hard. And, I wish sometimes I could take a camera with me, especially on a Wednesday like today when, we will have exec council and show what really goes into the day-to-day operations, the inner workings. And perhaps some of the hard working might be a result of inexperience, because of course I lead a team that is all new, relatively new to politics. At present, as a matter of fact, this current Tobago House of Assembly, I am the longest serving elected member of the Tobago House of Assembly, having been elected since 2017. This current one, and that is unheard of insofar as the Tobago House of Assembly over the last 43 years. So it's pretty much a very young and youthful house. And so that comes with all of the advantages. It comes with all of the energies, the excitement, the anxieties, the wanting to change the world in a minute, to snap your finger and get it done. But that also comes with sometimes the frustration of not getting it done as quickly as you want. It also comes with some of the missteps and mistakes that will naturally occur in trying to rush things, trying to get this done as fast as possible, and recognizing that sometimes speed isn't always there with efficiency, and so on, and that the public service is a whole another ball game that you have to just work with and work around and through, and all of those things. So yes, in short, I am very proud of the team, proud of what we have been able to accomplish so far. But notwithstanding my pride in what we have been able to accomplish so far, I want to go on public record, as challenging my team to do more, because what we have done so far is good, but I want us to do even better, to push for even better. And of course, that will call for some more sacrifices. It will call for some late nights, some more late nights. It will call for people to dig deeper, but we just have to. Because what I experience, especially with those town hall meetings, is that I experience people coming and complaining about problems that might be centuries old, problems that exist. People are coming to talk about roads and areas that I don't even know existed, but have been existing for as long as people have been alive on the island, begging for them to be fixed and so on. And of course, the challenge is, how do you in 2 years sometimes fix problems that pervades our society, or pervaded our society for 43 years. But it's a challenge I welcome, because I said to the public, we will fix this. Let me fix this. I said to the public, we'll find a way. The challenge with that catchphrase is that you get to realize that you can't fix everything at the same time or immediately. But what we have been able to fix so far, I think, has been tremendous. We have been putting in quite a bit of work. We have seen the wheels of the revolution turning on the island, so to speak. And so I am really looking forward to this calendar year that's coming January 1. I'm looking forward to all of the new and exciting things we will get to do that we have not been able to accomplish in the previous 2 years. And of course, it will be remiss of me not to acknowledge the fact that, I wish that during the 2 years we did not have some topsy-turvy moments, but we have had some topsy-turvy moments. I don't know if other governments would have succeeded those topsy-turvy moments that we have had. We have had two major ones. In the government that preceded mine, they had one topsy-turvy moment, and that led to the moving of our chief secretary, a new person come on stream, who get kicked out, who get kicked in, and all of that. And we, despite those two topsy-turvy moments, have been able to hold it together, keep a stable government, keep the island focused, keep laser focused on the island's development. And to me, that says a lot about the stability in governance and how focused we are in getting it right.
Yeah, and you're quite correct from what you just explained there. But we have a video that I really want to share with the public. I hope these guys have it ready. Let's take a look at that video, which I want to show at this point in time.
From being in youth leadership, it has taught me that one key aspect of leadership is being able or being willing to take risk and being committed to the risk that you take. And I would like to leave that advice with you tonight. And Mr. Chief Sec, you don't need to be afraid now, but a few more years, be afraid, because I'm coming for your job.
More than prophetic.
Well, it's more than prophetic, and you know, being a Christian, we talk about the power of life and death in the tongue. And you know, I was at the youth debate at the THA at the house last week, Friday, and then I paid attention to the debates that happened at the National Parliament, youth debates that happened at the National Parliament recently, and I look at all of these promising youngsters. And this might be a good opportunity to say to them that, you know, you guys have to come for my job. My navel string is not buried at Jerningham Street. but really and truly, it says that the fact that I am it says that Tobago can in fact be a place where people can self-actualize and live their dreams, and that's an important point, because Tobago perhaps has the highest rate of outward migration in the region, maybe beaten only by Jamaica based on numbers. But if you look based on anecdotal evidence, our outward migration rate is extremely high. There are more Tobagonians living off of the island and living on the island of Tobago. That's our reality. And a large part of that, from all of the studies I've seen, says that people feel as though they cannot self-actualize on the island of Tobago. I can't live out my dream on the island. And when we tie that into the fact that we do have a challenge with underemployment, meaning so many of our young, bright minds who go off, study, learn new skills, when they return, they don't get to work in the professions that they study for, because the island's economy is so small, the economies of scale is small, the government, though large in the context of Tobago, is relatively small, and so that results in people trying to find opportunities to self-actualize away from Tobago. And so when I tell people about the greatest little island on the planet, one of the tenets of that is that opportunity for people, for Tobagonians, to be able to live out their dream in Tobago, whatever that dream is. And so the fact that I could, so long ago, be awarded and recognized by the THA then for youth work and youth service, and say then, look, my dream is to become the Chief Secretary, and some years later I'm able to achieve it, says to me that indeed Tobago can be a place for people to self-actualize, for people to live out their dream. And that's a responsibility that I now have, the team I lead now have. It's something we're burdened with. We're not there yet, Gerry. We are not there yet.
Yeah.
Because I will be pointed blank with you, telling you that too many of our people are underemployed. I can recall one of my Jamaican friends asking me if all our in Tobago does teach, because to him, all of his friends from Tobago were teachers. Everybody he knew from Tobago either taught or is teaching or will be a teacher. And I had to explain that, you know, in the context of a very small economy and a small private sector, most people with professional degrees on the island sort of end up streamlining into the teaching service. And if you look at so many of the politicians before me, they taught, many of them
Yeah,
were
true.
teachers. And that's because for the 43 years we have been here as a THA,
And the respect for the teaching profession
and respect
too.
for the teaching profession, it became the thing to do in the absence of other larger opportunities on the island. But it's something we just have to work on, and I hope sometime in the conversation we get to talk about things like our birth rate and what we need to do about that, how to get the economies of scale up, what we need to do in tourism so that we can superficially inflate the population size and all of those things. I hope we get to some of those.
We're getting to
things.
that. I
Yeah.
raised that with Faith yesterday. As a matter of fact, it's a serious thing that when it was brought to my attention, we have to do something and but we have to get the data.
Well,
So
I
critical.
could tell you some of the data now. The data we are seeing is that our birth rate is down by about 45%.
Yeah,
In
from
in
one
in
1,200.
Well, if you look between
Something like
2019 and now, and I looked at the data just this morning before coming here. That's one of the things I was reading through for my day of work. In 2019, our birth rate as an island was just over 800. So far for the year, we are at 437.
Yeah, a few
And
years before that.
every single year between 2019 and now, we have been dipping. We have been declining. That is a challenge. That's not a living community. We have a challenge the size of what Japan had some years ago. And so we have to come up with some creative measures, some of which will be announced in this month of December, as to how we can incentivize the population in terms of improving the growth rate. Because at that growth rate, we can't sustain our economy. At that growth rate, we'll have to go for outside workers pretty soon to get the job done. And I'm so sorry that I am not more helpful in terms of the numbers, the contribution to the birth rate. I'm at 1 and I feel like I'm at 10, right? But the truth is we have to incentivize the birth rate. And you have to understand too that with the shocks to the global economy, people are naturally finding it much more difficult to take care of children with the social incidences that we're having, the increase in crime and security challenges and so on. People are really questioning how much children they should really have.
And in addition to that, there are issues of fertility
issues, their health
and
issues.
women,
So that's why I want the TRHA to go in terms of its data collection, not just give me the numbers, but to also look at what might be causing it,
Exactly.
and doing some medical research to see if perchance a large part of that might not be medical as opposed to social. So while
And some people it's done by their decision. They want to be childless or so, and they do whatever is required.
and people are making children later. People are making children later.
Yeah,
I
and they
mean,
don't want children to interfere with their level.
I mean, I joke that when it's time for daddy race, I go carry on because I am having a young baby with students of mine who have young babies. So imagine I go into daddy race and I have to run against the people I taught in school. I sure come last, But so people are making the decision as well to have children much later on in life because there are things that we are doing as youngsters that our parents did not do, did not get the opportunity to do. We are going off and studying and doing all of these degrees and training and wanting to live in other places and experience
And
other
our parents didn't have
cultures.
that opportunity.
Our parents did not have that opportunity. Our parents just would domicile here, get children, get married as quickly, build a family, build a home, and see if you get a government work. That was a dream. But the dream has evolved quite a bit.
That what I want to talk to you about your bringing up as well and how you balance your responsibility. First, how you grew up and the kind of community you came from, how that helped to raise you, and of course we're gonna come to how you balance this act with your new family. With all your responsibilities.
Speyside has been the greatest village to me. I will always sing Speyside praises, and it's not because they have consistently supported me. Even if tomorrow Speyside decides not to support me, I will always give Speyside credit for raising me. And Speyside has its flaws, trust me, we have our flaws. But you're talking about growing up in an area called Lucivale, growing up in a tiny wooden home that was my great grandparents' home, and then my father built one at the back of there, and then we demolished the old wooden home with the jealousy and so on. So my father first built a home out of ply, the ply, the groove ply. That's what we used at first, and Bill was just the upstairs. And in those early years, in fact, for most, if not all of my secondary years, I was telling some youngsters recently. I had a one-on-one with 5 boys recently, and I was telling them, I said, listen, for almost all of my secondary years, it was a latrine we used. I was taught in water, practically all. In fact, we got indoor plumbing and indoor toilet facilities somewhere around 2002. And that was me now looking to exit sixth form. And I was making the point to them that on account of that, I never carried school friends home by me, because you're ashamed of that. But outside of that space, that was a wonderful world. You're talking about the fisher folk who live nearby. Because of them, by the time I was 3 years old, I was swimming. In fact, if you go to Speyside during the July-August vacation, you will see youngsters 3 and 4 in the beach by themselves. I'm not sending children authority up there to lock up anybody. People not being irresponsible. But we learn to swim like very young. It's just like natural that we there. Being tossed out of a boat by a fisherman and saying, look, find your way in shore. Or sometimes you jump on the boat and you say you're going for a little ride to Little Tobago, a boat ride. And when you think the fisherman coming back and bringing you ashore, he come and he anchor your boat. And he say, well, me know you're getting home, you have to get in. And he jump off and leave you. And you sit down there contemplating life for a while, and you say, I'm going to meet this boy. But eventually you get brave enough, you jump off and you doggy paddle until you learn how to do your breaststrokes and you get ashore. So I grew up with that. I grew up with being able to roam the village. When it's balata season, you roam, you pick your balata, you could go, you get breadfruit all over the place, mangoes all over the place, fruits galore. You grow up understanding that everybody, all the children in the neighborhood, they play after school together. Sometimes we in the sea in the night. And we still joke about this with my friends back home in Speyside, that my father would come down by the beach. My father would come down by the beach in the night after 6, after 7 with a skylarking in the water, doing something we call playing cork, where we using our foot to flip over and hit each other in the water.
That was dangerous, boy.
I know it's dangerous because sometimes I get a good foot in your head, eh? But we there in the water in the night, and my father would come down and I ducking and hiding and trying to sneak to get to our side of the beach to go home, because my father didn't play about homework and that kind of thing, eh? Because my father never got the opportunity to go to secondary school. And my mother did not do well because she got pregnant at 5th form. So my parents were strict.
Both parents are alive?
No, my mother passed in 2020. No, 2019. 2019, my mother passed. My father turned 65 a few weeks ago in November. But my parents were strict. They were really strict, as in, I remember when we first got a television in the household, and we didn't have cable, we didn't know about cable and so on, is antenna and so on as we had. And then eventually we got direct TV. In my household, you could not watch anything but news on a weeknight. When I tell you anything about news, between 7 and 8, you're watching news, and then TV lock off. I had to go and do work and study. And I remember some of my parents in the room, and I turning off all the volume on the TV and trying to watch and read lips, because you so want to watch some show. And eventually I get a little headphone and I plug it in and trying to listen to the headphone. I'm talking about this is what, late 90s, this is at 99, around there. Trying to listen, because you have to hide. Because during the week, strictly news. On weekends, you could free up, you could watch TV. When school is out on vacation, you could free up. And that's something my parents believed in. Vacation time,
must be real vacation.
Must be real vacation. So vacation time, you could roam the whole village. Last week before school resumed, you have to come back and start to they shut down the vacation a week before. You start to read up them books. When in primary school, you know,
It was as strict as that.
yeah, when the last week before school reopen, that is when they shut off vacation, they return back to normalcy. When in primary school, of course, they give you the bath and a good scrubbing and a purge.
And a purge.
Before we return to school. But in secondary school, the scrubbing wasn't there in secondary school. But in secondary school, last week before the vacation, they wanted to come and start to read up a book. So I used to always find time to read out the literature books and so on before school reopened. So by the time school reopened, I would have read all the literature books I have on the schedule for that term and so on. And that's why subjects like history and lit became the subjects that I fell in love with because of the amount of reading I was made to do. And although my father never went to secondary school, my father is a strong reader. I love to read. But, you know, he was into his Western. So his books were a lot of those Western novels and so on. He will read a lot of those things. And a lot of those Pan-African books. He was into those Pan-African books. So he was the one who introduced me to books like the Black Jacobin and Roots and so on. He was into those kind of books, the C.L.R. James, the Eric Williams books and so on. He was into history and Pan-Africanism quite a lot. And of course, his spare time, he loved his Western novels and Western books. I guess there's a generation of Tobagonians who.
But how they
enjoy
supported
Westerns.
you going to university and tertiary education and that sort of thing? How that was done? The community played a role in that?
A huge role. Because to be honest, that was a challenge. But I grew up with my father taking loans every July, August to buy books. So now when I'm in this position and I see so many people coming to get help with books and so on, I always think to myself, I say, but in my day, yeah, nobody will go into my father just going down Scotiabank and carry the book list and take a small loan and during the term you pay off for the loan. During the school year, you pay off for the loan. In secondary school, for university, I started university in 2005. And I recall going home one night, at that time I was working with TSCT, and I went home and I said to my parents, I said, listen, I'm going off to study and I get accepted to Jamaica. My mother had apprehensions right away, because at that time I was saying I'm going off and study journalism, and because I was fascinated by seeing journalists reporting from Iraq in the Iraq War. So based on my fascination of that, I said, I'll switch from doing anything with politics and go into journalism. My mother said, hell no, you ain't going off and studying nothing because you look like you want to go all over the world in all kind of crazy place to be reporting. No, none of that. But I came home and I said to my parents, look, I want to go off to study. I don't have enough money. So my father said, all right, not a problem. And that's how my family operates up to this day. We have family discussions on everything. So as a child, I always knew what my parents' salary was, what we have money for, what we don't have money for. So I know not to bad beg, or not to make noise of things that we can't afford. And so after having the family discussion, my father and I came into town one day, went by Scotiabank. Scotiabank was right in the middle of Scarborough. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but there was a gentleman there with a sort of high top haircut. He was the loans officer. We went into the room. So what you come for? My father said to me, turned to me in the presence of the loans officer, said, look, tell him, man, what you come for. And I had to produce all the documents from the bank, make my case to the loans officer for a loan. We got the loan as much as the bank was willing to give to us. And I started late that year because that same year in 2005, my grandfather passed that year. So he was buried in September that year. So when I should have started school, I was at home, seeing about being with the family and funeral expenses and so on. And my mother saying, well, put it off to next year and so on. But I said no, because I read my mother play a long time. She only boy child. I know mothers and their sons. If she could get me to stay and study at home or do something else, she'd be fine. Going all the way to Jamaica and hearing all of these negatives about crime and so on, she had a challenge there. But we got the loan. I left late September, got into school. When I got into university at Jamaica, registration was closed. the online portals closed. I had to go to the Dean of Humanities, sit with her and physically beg her to say, look, you have to open this thing up for me, show me grandfather death certificate, show what happened, and she was very, very accommodating. And so I got to enroll. But the thing is, by the time I done pay my fees, 2005, by the time I finished paying the fees, all the money done. All the money done. Like all the loan money done paying the fees. And I said, but how am I making it past this first semester? But thankfully in January 2006, GATE was introduced. Mr. Manning introduced GATE that year. And sometime later in 2006, I became a recipient of financial assistance. That was the THA's program for university. So between GATE, financial assistance, that helped. But it was people like my neighbor, and I know you want me to call the name, like my neighbor Zod, who, when I come home for holidays, who used to help buy the plane tickets to go back, because a plane ticket to Jamaica was always expensive. Sometimes it's $4,000+
Wow.
For a plane ticket just
At that time, yeah.
to get to Jamaica, especially in peak season. So it was difficult, and people like my neighbors will always pitch in to help with money, so food. So now I'll come home from university and meet the freezer, pack up with fish. All them fishermen, when they go to sea, they will say, listen, keep this fish there, keep this fish there, keep this when your son come home and Junior come home, because Junior is what everybody calls me in the village. My father has the same name, so everybody calls me Junior. When Junior come home, make sure you get some good fish brought and things, strengthen me up. And the one reason why I love dry fish to this day, because of course they will send all this smoked fish and so on, which I will pack up and tote back to Jamaica, because you know with the smoked fish, they process it, preserves it for a very long time. And all of that helped me through university. So I will always be grateful to people in Speyside. Always grateful to my neighbors, some of who are family, but grateful for their deposit in my life, to teachers, people like Miss Shirley and, well, Miss Janine, who just retired. My preschool teacher just retired last week, Friday, at the age of 60. And she has been teaching at the preschool in Speyside for as long as the preschool was in existence. She taught me, she taught my older sister. My sister is now was there teaching with her and so on. So these are people that really led to my upbringing.
Yeah, definitely. We could hear more about that, but yes. We had to go to some other things. And first, they're telling me I have to take a break, which is long overdue. We go for a break.
Light up the Christmas with the best fiber. Surfboard channel switch to Amplia. Thousands in prizes, plenty smart TVs. 1 year free service and free groceries. We surfing with Amplia. We winning with Amplia. We binging with Amplia. We winning with Amplia. Sign up now for 50% off plus a chance to win over $100,000 in prizes. Call 800-4663.
So your car break down.
Oh, no, not again.
And you're worried paying a wrecker could mean a pocket breakdown too. But when you're insured with Tatil, no stress.
Yes!
A Tatil motor policy has lots of benefits that protect your pocket, like free roadside assistance. That's free 24/7 every time, as many times as you need. Tatil, where people are people. A member of the Ansa McAl Group.
At JK Tech, we bring technology to your doorstep. From cutting-edge laptops to reliable printers, we've got it all. Nationwide delivery and a new website for easy online ordering. JK Tech is your one-stop shop for your electronics and computer needs. Carrying top brands such as Acer, Samsung, HP, and much more. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at JKTechTT or visit jktechtt.com. Quality tech is just a click away. JK Tech. Evaluate your shopping experience, your tech, your way. Call or WhatsApp 383-2651. Shop smart, shop JK Tech.
be fearful or ignorant about diseases. The opportunity to learn how to effectively work with or even reverse sicknesses is here. Do you know someone that is suffering from an illness? You are invited to come and learn in this in-depth, hands-on training program. Call this number and reserve your space in this God-inspired, hands-on medical missionary training program going on in Tobago. See you there.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tobago. Your meals, medication, groceries, and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tobago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO, and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tobago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tobago's at your service.
Yeah. Hey. Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago.
Yes, folks, we're back and we continue chatting here with Farley Augustine, Chief Secretary, and Secretary for Economic Finance and Economy.
Yes.
As well. So two big portfolios. What are some of the critical areas? What are some of the responsibilities first as Chief Secretary?
Right. So
what that portfolio includes?
So, as Chief Secretary, I want to make us understand that the Office of Chief Secretary is viewed in the law as a division, one of the divisions of the Assembly. The access that the Executive Council constitutes the Chief Secretary and a Deputy Chief Secretary and no more than seven other secretaries. So we could go to a total of 9 secretaries.
That's right. That's what you have now.
No, right now we have 8. Upon the departure of Mr. Duke, we...
Oh yeah, you have 8. You're right. Yeah,
8.
yeah. But you,
so
have
we
nine,
have
you still have 9 divisions.
We still have 9 divisions, right? As Chief Secretary, under the Office of Chief Secretary, we have elements such as TEMA. So I'm responsible for TEMA. I'm responsible for all the security issues that we face within the confines of the 5th schedule, because you will appreciate that security remains a 6th schedule item.
6th or 5th?
6th. National security is a 6th schedule item. So that's like police and army. They are 6th schedule item. But
oh yes,
still,
that's right.
insofar as disaster preparedness and those security issues, we treated those under TEMA, that's under Office of the Chief Secretary. We also have the Planning Department under the Office of the Chief Secretary. So the Planning Department is the department that looks at the budget, plans for your DP and all of that. We also have under the Office of the Chief Secretary the revitalizing of PRDI. So we are pretty advanced with that. I know it was shut down previously, but we are well on our way to resuscitating it in this calendar year. Under the Office of the Chief Secretary, we also have the Chief Administrator and her office under the Office of the Chief Secretary as well. The access that the Chief Administrator works out of whichever division is assigned to him or her by the Chief Secretary. She's currently assigned to the Office of the Chief Secretary at the moment. Office of the Chief Secretary also acts as sort of the umbrella head for some departments such as IT, Information Division is also under the Office of the Chief Secretary. We also look at HR, the head of HR, in terms of HR for the entire public service in Tobago, falls under the Office of the Chief Secretary as well. So it's quite a number of areas under the Office of the Chief Secretary.
What about churches and these related?
Right, they were under the Office of the Chief Secretary, but that vote and that responsibility has been moved to community development, where I thought that they were better placed across that community development as opposed to under the Office of the Chief Secretary. Then I have the Division of Finance, Trade and Economy. Under the Division of Finance, Trade and Economy. But that's a separate division. That's a separate division. That's the division that's like the heart. So OCS is like the head and finance is like the heart. That finance pumps the blood into through the system, meaning the money, the finance. So finance is responsible for making releases to all of the different divisions so that they have monies to execute their duties. Under finance, we do have some programs like the BDU, venture capital. We have the trade desk that is being started up at finance. Up at finance, we also have the micro malls around the island that exist around the island. And doing those build-out. At finance, we do the financial planning for the THA. So we have a strong research unit over at finance that does research specific for the economic development of the island. So for example, it's that research unit that I had do research on the impact of COVID-19, impact on the private business one. So all of that happens under finance. But finance and OCS, if you look at the number of employees, those are the two among the two smallest divisions in terms of the numbers of employees that we.
But you all do a lot and have a lot of overarching reach.
Do a lot and have a lot of overarching reach across this system. Outside of what happens under the office of the Chief Secretary, as a Chief Secretary, I am the head of the Executive Council. I also take responsibility for appointing secretaries. I also take responsibility for managing the affairs at the Executive Council at the central place. But then we have divisions that the access the secretary has general and direct control for. And as I pointed out, we have essentially those, 10 divisions, because between Dr. Faith and myself, we hold on 2 divisions each, but we have 10 divisions in total, with 2 being held by myself, 2 being held by the Deputy Chief Secretary, Dr. Faith B. Israel, and we have the other line divisions for which we provide services to the people of Tobago.
Yeah, and let us look quickly, I don't say quickly, but I want to spend some time with finance first.
Sure.
And let us see what is happening in that division. That division is responsible for venture capital,
That's
BDU,
correct. That's correct.
and these areas.
That's
right?
correct, yes.
What are they supposed to do? What are the big...
Right. So business development unit, both BDU and venture capital, they are 2 funding agencies, so to speak, of the THA that provide support to businesses, starting with the SMEs, the small and micro enterprises, all the way to the very large. So let me start with BDU. BDU was actually started by Mr. Hochoy Charles. That program was started by Mr. Hochoy Charles, but continued under Anselm London, and is still happening under my tenure. Over the last 2 years, we have given out over 400 grants. So we give grants upward of $25,000 thereabout, up to $25,000. And on occasion, if it's really a special need, then we go to Exec Council for a variation of that. And currently, that is being revisited to take the amount up to $50,000. So in this fiscal year, that amount will go up to $50,000. And these are grants to small businesses. Recently, we had the BDU officers. I asked them to, and in less than a week of me asking them to, they were out on the streets, going all the way up to the countryside in Lansing, all the way up to Charlottesville.
To do what?
Finding the small enterprises on the roadside and carrying the forms to them and say, look, there is an opportunity that you can expand your operation.
But that is quite interesting because
to this process. So, and that was last week and week before. I told them, I said, listen, you can't stay in the office and expect everybody to come to you. Go out and target the people and get to them and say, look, this service is available. Subscribe and be a part of it. So that's what BDU does. Venture capital, on the other hand, the much larger enterprise, the venture capital is to support new and innovative businesses, large businesses. Venture capital is empowered to give up to $5 million for a grand business idea. In the past, venture capital has given more than $5 million. The last big project venture capital participated in was that of Comfort Inn. Comfort Inn received $8.5 million thereabout from venture capital for that hotel that you see there. But of course, comforting, they got other funding. I think that hotel was built for somewhere around $75 to $80 million. So that's a massive project. And what we gave is really a drop in the bucket. Yeah. But it certainly helped them to be able to collateralize their resources and so on, and go to the banks, the external banks, so get larger funding for that enterprise. So between those two, we support SMEs and support large businesses. There is a gap in the middle that we're working to close now, and recently I'm sure you saw the Minister of Trade in Tobago, and we had a joint meeting with the business community, Mrs. Gopi Schoon. And the reason for that meeting is because the way the system is structured is that when you want to upscale from a $25,000 grant, but you're not yet at a $1 million range, but you need somewhere in the middle, like a few $100,000 and so on, whether it's to get equipment and so on, the idea is that you should be getting that from the Ministry of Trade. We are working to close that gap in Tobago. And I have some good news for you, because I don't believe that venture capital works as well as it should. I don't believe BDU works as well as it should. No, they do a lot of work. We give a lot of grants, right?
And still BDU have its challenges.
As I said, over the last 2 years, you're talking about over 400 people receiving grants. That's a whole lot of money. That equates to millions of dollars. But does that equate to the kind of strong businesses and a stronger private sector on the island? And the answer to that is no. And so what we're working on right now, I have a team led by Ms. Vernie Shields, and what that team has been doing for me diligently is to sort of bring BDU and venture capital together so that we can move towards having a development bank. What the development bank will mean is that the THA will create an institution external to the THA that will provide all the services from grant funding to loans for the business community, to multi-million-dollar loans for the business community. The THA provides the seed money, and they're able to turn it over, make sure when they lend people loans, business loans, that they will pay back the loans. And the mandate is that the development bank should be easier for businesses in Tobago to have access to funding than through the commercial banks. You know how difficult it is for Tobago businesses to really enjoy loans from the traditional commercial banks. Also, if we put everything from the grant funding to loans external to the THA, it means that no politician in the future has any say over or any influence over who gets these grants. Now, as the Secretary of Finance, I don't go down to BDU and tell them, make sure and give Gerry this loan. No, I don't. Right? That has happened in the past, no doubt, but I don't do that. I wait on them to do their process, give their recommendation, but they send it up to me for final approval, and then for payment. There will be times I will look through the file and see that they did not recommend, and I will send it back down for them to review it, because I saw potential in the thing, that kind of thing. Having a development bank will mean that I, as Secretary of Finance, will be cut completely out of the process. So it's a very a process that does not rely on the executive at all for the awarding of grants or loans, and it becomes a one-stop shop where Tobagonians and Tobago businesses can find support, financial support for their work. Venture capital should be funding the large businesses. Truth be told, when I look at the portfolio,
I wonder if you should say funding or provide equity.
Well, it is really equity, right? I use the term funding because it's a simple way for people to understand. But really and truly, it's equity, because what happens is that meaning venture capital gives you the funding. When venture capital gives you the funding, they are under certain conditions. Venture capital will also immediately put someone on your board of directors, and that person will remain on your board of directors to provide help and guidance until you repay the monies that you received from venture capital. So it is equity, but I'm just talking funding so that people understand how it works. It's not that you can just walk in and say, I want $5 million and they get it. You have to do your proposal, you have to sit, you have to be interviewed, it's been discussed, the board sit and interrogate the thing, they look at whether it will work in the Tobago space and all of that, and then make a recommendation for the funding of the project. And once
But you know,
the project is funded,
there's so
they
much,
support.
there are one or two little issues in, say, like BDU, for example, that little taunting issue. You can't get a loan or grant from BDU, especially if you buying materials. Like if a man apply, and many farmers told me, raw material, like for building your pen, or to house your animals, a housing thing, you need building material to do that. They're not giving you a loan for that.
No, well,
How unflexible it can be.
They give loans or grants for building materials. They weren't giving for some raw materials. So for example, you will get loans or grants for equipment. So for example, if you need, let's say, a hatchery, as an example, or you need commercial blenders, or you need commercial ovens, you get funding for those things.
Equipment.
So you get for equipment.
Supporting equipment, but a basic thing like a housing, to house some of these very equipment that you're not giving no money for that. I find that is so unreasonable and insensitive and unproductive.
It is. So there's a whole of BDU improvement that's happening. So I spoke about.
I hope they address that.
No, that's one of the things being addressed. And if you noted, it's increasing the limit from 25
that
to
is
50,000.
nice. All of that is nice.
It is also changing the requirements so that you're not bogged down by the policy that says we can't give for certain things. It's just to monitor
and
people.
For some long months, they have not given any grant. I don't think they give any grant for the year.
No, grants. No. Oh, of course.
For the year?
Yeah.
All right. Some months ago, they said not a grant given for the year.
No, grants have been given because the files are coming. Remember, I said the files have to come to me to give the final approval, and not just grants, but they also give loans. Now, remember, the fiscal year has only just started. The fiscal year started in October. So this is a new year that has started, and already for this new fiscal year, starting October, I have seen files coming through for loans and so on from BDU. So it has started.
All right, let's get to venture capital, which is another issue. There are people who come to me all the time. I don't know, maybe they feel I have some inroad inside way to these assembly people. But 2 years, one of them almost 2 years, that they applied for venture capital support and can't get any, like the thing not just going anyway. It going from one person to a next person, then the thing ain't reached the investment committee yet, and it can't go to the board unless the investment committee do this, and the investment committee sit down on it. So investment committee a meeting, and then the board went out, and they give an extra 3 months for the board to come back. All this kind of hipsy-dipsy, unproductive response. Where are we going with this thing? So this is a venture capital company, Farley.
So there are people with applications as long as 5 years old or more, right? That
I know about just for 2 years.
Have been waiting in the system, and you're right. When you look at venture capital and look at the rules of engagement, it is so stringent that it really locks people out more than it locks people in. And
there are certain conditions that I'm aware of.
I've said to the board recently, I said, listen, for this thing to work in the context of Tobago, you can't treat venture capital the same way it is treated in another jurisdiction or other jurisdictions, because there are some nuances here in Tobago that really and truly that require some flexibility and some bending. Now, as the line secretary, I tried on one occasion.
Yeah, folks, we back. We had a little break in transmission, power outage here. But we back now, and sorry for the little delay. However, we were talking about, Chief, about the BDU.
And I want to clear up that point because I don't know where to go with the wrong idea. So I was making the point that a business came, they complained to me, they said, look, we applied to BDU, we ain't getting, venture, we ain't getting through at all. They explained the thing, I wrote to the venture board, I said, listen, this project is a beautiful project and I think you should invest in it. The board wrote me back to say, look, Secretary of Finance, We don't think that company could manage it. The financials bad. We ain't giving them the money. However, you as secretary can instruct us to give them. I see these people want to set me up. I said, I as secretary will not instruct any board to give anybody any funding. They don't meet the criteria. That would be an overreach from me as secretary. And I wouldn't say they don't meet the criteria. I'm saying that the way the system is currently structured is not flexible enough. The Tobago space and our economy is so nuanced that we have to be flexible, a lot more flexible in being able to reach the people that need the help. But to be honest and to be fair, when I look at the venture capital portfolio and people who will lend money by venture capital, a great deal of them are failing. Right,
some dismal feeling.
So even with the stringent measures, a great amount
because
of
some of those measures and conditions won't apply.
They won't apply. One and two. Let me. From my observation, we have a lot of talented Tobagonians. So you, Gerry, might be excellent at making ice cream. You are the best ice cream maker in the whole world, but that does not make you an excellent businessman. So you have a good product that the world wants, but you are not an excellent businessman. So you don't understand the marketing, you don't understand supply chain and logistics issues, you don't understand how to move things to the end user. And so
how to add greater shelf life. You
don't understand how to manage workers and manage people. So you have a great product. On paper, there's a demand for your product. People want your product. We're giving you the support and the funding, but you're still failing because you are not able to carry on with the other parts of the business. You see, the development of the product or the service is only one part of the business. In fact, that might be the smallest part of the business. You and I both know, you will walk into the supermarket right now, and you will see on shelf some inferior products that's selling for donkey years and making money and are doing well. You know they're inferior because they might boil a particular pack of rice, and some grain does boil hard and some grain does boil soft. But they're not going out of business. You know why? Because they understand that business is more than just the product. The product and having a great product might very well be the smallest part of the in terms of the considerations for your business. And so another area that we're looking at in this fiscal year is how can we do some more hand-holding. Yes, putting somebody on your board is good, but it's proving to be not enough. How do we, when we give you the support, literally grab your hand and help you cross the road and tell you look left, look right? Because right now you're looking up and down, but look left, look right, cross safely and succeed with your business. How is there a way we're looking at? Is there a way we could perhaps take care of some of the logistics and supply chain management issues that some of these businesses are suffering with? So it's a whole confluence of issues that has to be treated with. But the reality is, several of those who have received funding from venture capital are not now doing well, despite having somebody from venture capital on the board over the last 3, 4, 5 years.
That has been one of the dismal failures about it.
That's one of the dismal. So that's one of the reasons why we're looking at the development bank as a sort of a solution, because we have to revisit.
But while you're doing that, you have to do some restructuring or reorganizing of
venture capital to
definitely.
To allow it to be more successful.
I think you suggested putting VDU and venture in one.
So also we have been talking with the CDB. Dr. Nichols was in on that conversation as well, who is out there with the CDB. The CDB came here, met with us in Tobago, right there at Victory Bruce. We went through some of the things. And what we're looking at is creating more or less a one-stop shop. One door, right? Everything from grants right up to loans. So you walk through the one door.
Investment for now?
And investments.
Okay.
And all of the investments. So before we get to the full bill out of the development bank, having the one-stop shop kind of arrangement allows us to consolidate all the resources, and that because there are times
this entity deal with all the approval processes.
Because there are times that I call BDU, you could ask the BDU folks. I call here at BDU, I call here at Investments in Venture. I say, listen, both of you will come together and meet with this one party. Because there are times that we need both sides to meet with this person. Because the person might have gone through BDU, gotten some help and some support.
And
they're ready to upscale now to go on the next level. So we need Venture to come. So we need to have left hand knowing what the right hand doing, and a lot more synergy happening between the two, as opposed to just two isolated areas working.
And being a little inflexible sometimes.
We need to be a lot more flexible.
We want to move on because we have until 9:30 here. We just talk off air about investments and people talking to me about different things happening and want to do. People in the diaspora, want to do so many things. People are inspired by your leadership and they want to be part of this critical stage of Tobago's development. One of the critical things I think we ought to do that will kind of form the framework to facilitate all these things is to develop like a sustainable plan for Tobago. Something sustainable, so that when rainfall or when the carbo star can't run or you have a disaster, at least what we produce on the island should be upscaled to a better quality, so that at least it can feed us before we start thinking about exporting. We have to come to that step. So what we have to do, whether it's in the agricultural sector, manufacturing sector, and these sectors, we need to have a plan for funding, developing, holding the sectors or the subsectors' hands and moving to another level. It is quite important.
Well, the CDP 2.0 expired many moons ago. If I expired since my first term as a member of the assembly, since in the minority. And so we are actively working on that strategic plan. We should talk about the long-term plan for the island. In so far as foreign direct investment, we actually have a desk set up that is actively reaching out and trying to get investments for the island. We also put out an RFP. An RFP went out. We literally put out a generalized RFP and it will go out again next year. And what the RFP basically said was, you have an idea, you have a proposal for Tobago, then enter it, pitch it, right? And we did get some takers. We have proposals sitting down to do even the port in Scarborough. We have proposals for marinas. We have proposals for medical tourism. We have proposals for cricket stadium. So what is happening with those proposals that we have on the inside? We have teams of experts looking at them, digging through them, because I don't want us to sign off on anything, and it becomes disastrous for the island. It has to be beneficial for the island. And in some of these proposals, I would say the THA and on behalf of Tobagonians need to get equity. Meaning, we're not just facilitating or just say, hey, look, land bill, but in some of those, we need to come in and say, listen, this is a great idea. I want to be a shareholder in anything. Even if it's a minority shareholder, so that for the full life of this business,
even if you give land as equity in the
of course. So if you give land, give me a 6% profit every year. And if that happens every year for as long as that business is in existence, then they talk about continuously earning, because we have to move our funding for our budget away from just dependent on the subsidies from the central government.
That is the big issue.
Move it to the place where we earn a lot more internally within the Tobago space.
And there is a sustainable plan for the island will include.
And so those investment proposals that are coming in allows us some opportunity that we can earn perpetually from these businesses as long as they are in existence and they are doing well.
Sea Bridge and Air Bridge Chief, what is the latest with that now? How are we doing with that?
Well, you will appreciate that the cargo boat should be going down again sometime in this month of December, this Christmas season. I think some maintenance issues.
About 16 days, and one of the main issues because of the cruise ship in Trinidad and the cruise ship in Tobago, and apparently they use the same space to dock.
Well, the challenge is a lot more on the Trinidad side than in Tobago side. Where the cruise ships dock in Trinidad is where the vessel has to dock. The cargo boat has to dock. And the captain of the cargo boat, I understand, does not want to risk docking at the jetty in Port of Spain because the jetty may not be long enough, or it may not be the best place in terms of safety to dock. So that poses a challenge. The scheduling time is also altered. So for example, the cargo boat left Trinidad Monday night at 8 p.m. So it got into Tobago just before 4 a.m. Tuesday morning, as opposed to leaving its usual 2 p.m. and getting in the night. So it left Monday night instead of during the day on Monday, because there was, in fact, cruise ship in the port, and there was one in Tobago, cruise ship in the port in Tobago that particular Monday. This cruise ship season is heavier than last year.
That's been the best for a long time.
Yeah, it's the best for a very long while. So it shows the trajectory is pointing upward. But that also speaks to the fact that we really need to develop the port in Scarborough. And so when my very, very, very good friend, the Prime Minister, came home to Mason Hall to say, look, the Chief Secretary sent me 10 pounds of paper, right? And I'm not agreeing to anything in Tobago. What I basically did was to print off all of the feasibility studies, all of the design work, everything, and send it to the Prime Minister. They have
Pertaining it to what?
To port development in Scarborough, right? We're talking cargo boat and being able to fix that problem permanently. So I sent him all of the data, because in our first year and a half into office, we did consultations. We had the experts go on, you have to go and test for all your wave action, your currents, see what's happening in the seabed, see the depth that's there naturally, where are the best areas to dredge, whether or not there are reef systems to consider.
And what the Prime Minister said, we only have 7 more minutes.
So I sent all the things to him. By the way, all of the data, all of the information, all the design work is on the THA website and has been there for more than a month. So the public can download it, because we want to go into a final phase of consultations. And the reason why we wrote the Prime Minister is so that he could call stakeholders together, like Port Authority, Ministry of Works, and all of those that might be related, so that I could bring our experts to share the information, to go through it, give them a chance to go through the details even more, so we could get billing. Because if we have to fix this problem where boat can't come with cruise ship here, we have to develop a working port in Tobago. The port we have is just too small. And as I've already said, right now we have 2 proposals of people willing to fund and invest in the port development. So the issue is not getting the money to do the work. The issue at this point is also just moving and getting started. And once we get started on that project, which will be a mammoth project, that will turn the construction sector upside down, because I don't even think we have enough equipment and enough people to do that kind of build out. But that kind of economic activity on the island will move several downstream sectors. And I've already sent the copies to the Chamber of Commerce, because we'll be sitting with them to also go through how they can benefit from that development as well.
Yeah, beautiful. The sea bridge, the air bridge now.
Right, so air bridge, we still have not return to the pre-COVID number of flights, and I don't want to be misinterpreted, because I'm not saying that we have to have exactly the amount of flights we had before COVID. No, I am saying that seasonally and on weekends and times that is high peak areas, we really need to increase the flight load. We have to increase the flight load. The last discussion I had with Caribbean Airlines in November, I spoke with one of their managers there, and I started a conversation about leasing 2 planes. Tobago has done that in the past, and I'm told that based on the data, not even that was able to meet the demand for the flights. But if it is we have to lease 2 planes, then we have to. I don't know if I'm at liberty to share in full details, but I'll share just snippets. We do have an active proposal now for a company that will make Tobago essentially its home airport, its home airport, an airline, and that has found favor with the executive. So we at the stage now of having the agreement finalized, so we could sign on the dotted line. As soon as we sign on the dotted line, we'll let people know about that. What that agreement will allow for is that we almost immediately will have access to flights, both international and local flights, so that the island can be serviced. If we have a tourism industry that we have to build, it hinges upon the movement of people and getting people into the space.
Relationship with Trinidad, has that improved? We just want a minute to spend on that. Relationship with Prime Minister and so on, that is improving?
Well, those are two different relationships you're talking about. My relationship with Trinidad remains a good working relationship.
Cordial.
And very cordial. Just in the last 2 weeks, I met with two ministers, Gopi Schoon first, and then the week after, I met with Gonzalez, Minister of Public Utilities. And a week after meeting with Gonzalez, he was able to get from us a license to be able to build a water treatment plant up in Goldsboro. We made the lands available because it's THA lands. So we made the lands available so the water treatment plant can happen, which means that we'll solve the problem for the farmers in that area permanently, which also means that we will have more water in the pipeline coming between east and west of the island along that Windward Road, and allow Richmond to service going back up towards Roxborough, Delaford, and Goldsboro will now service coming back this way, and Hillsborough sending water even further. And that shows how cordial the relationship is. If it was a petty, ugly relationship with Trinidad, I would simply say, no, it's THA land, move from here. We have a cordial
so the relationship is improving immensely.
The relationship with Trinidad was never sour, right? The relationship with the Prime Minister is a different story. We have not spoken in a little while.
But you send documents in from time to time.
Of course, and
he responds sometimes.
Right, and I mean, with the last set of documents I sent to him, he responded publicly on air. He hasn't written me back as I took the time to write him. But here's how I view things. We don't have to be best friends, but we need to respect what the law says. So if I keep what Act 40 of 96 says, and they keep what Act 40 of 96 says, then everything will be okay. So for example, Act 40 of 96 says, send Tobago money in quarterly blocks, in front, in advance. If they keep that, which is what the law says they must do, they shall do, we have no problem. We have no quarrel. I don't have to go to court. I don't have to go and quarrel and say, well, you're sending the money late and you're breaching the law. Let us all just keep what the law says. We don't have to be friends. We don't have to knock glass. We don't have to drink. We don't have to hug up. All we need to do is just keep exactly what the law says, and the relationship will remain respectful. But insofar as my relationship with Trinidad, that remains very cordial. Trinidad is our friend. We have a lot of family members living in Trinidad. Every Tobagonian has somebody living in Trinidad. So Trinidad is our friend. That's the short of it. The relationship with the Prime Minister is another story. He will work out whatever he needs to work out in his
But you're still working towards improving it.
Well, of course, and let me be honest, I am not a petty person, so I will continue to engage. If he can't get over his feelings, that's his business. Life too short. I am not going to sleep with him on my mind whatsoever. I am confident that when I lie down and hug up my wife, I am not seeing the Prime Minister's face in my mind's eye. So I have no problems whatsoever with him where that is concerned.
Right.
And I will continue to write, send correspondences. He's free to respond or not respond. That's his...
I think he will respond accordingly.
And by the way, Section 31 of the Act says that there should be regular meetings and conversations. So the law itself requires that.
Yeah. Final thing, launching of the TPT. Tobago People Party. TPP, yeah.
Right. So I heard a lot of fake news around the place. Number one, TPP, we had the large launch in Scarborough, and it was the largest political meeting in Tobago for the calendar year 2023. Secondly, we have been registered with EBC, contrary to what some people up and down the place talking.
And the symbol has been accepted.
The symbol has been accepted.
Well, they can't register with it without a symbol.
The symbol has been accepted. We have received the notifications from EBC, Election and Boundaries Commission. So we have done all of the legal things that needs to be done. we at this stage now where we're getting all the banking accounts and so on sorted out, you know, with the new FIU rules and so on, financial rules for getting bank accounts. That's a sort of laborious process. Even when you're trying to get accounts as an individual, there's a whole lot of stuff. So we're working through that, and before we get to the end of the year, the bank accounts and all of that will be set up. In January, we'll have the ratification of the Constitution. It has been out to members. We place it online. It's unheard of that political parties just putting their constitution online for people to comment and to send in queries, because we want a very people-centered, people-focused, people-led institution. Given our experience, given Tobago's political experience, whereby you're always finding somebody coming and say, well, I own the party, is my own this, and why I say goes, and I could take it back if I want to take it back. What we have established is something that only the people could take back. Farley can wake up in the morning and say, listen, I'm taking this back, move from here, is my name, is my symbol. That's not going to happen, because we have a people-led institution. The people came up with the name, the people chose the color, the people chose the symbol, the people chose the constitution. Unlike several of the other parties, unlike all of the other parties that was chosen by some small committee or some individual coming up with the thing themselves, the mass of the people come together and say, you decide where's your color, you decide where is your name, you decide where is your symbol, you decide where is your constitution. You can't get better democracy than that. I guarantee you no other party in Tobago was formed like that. All of the others, PNM is probably Eric Williams and a select few that sit down in a dark room and come up with it. The party by Angus, she come up with that by herself. Watson already claimed that he owned the PDP, that is the party. TPP is people's parties. The people come up with that.
All right. We have to, I want you to promise me that we have in another session to deal with some other things, how we're going to transform and work with the public service and other issues in Tobago.
What I will want us to do is to have a conversation early next year, because this year, 2024, we have quite a bit of projections, quite a bit of implementation that we want to do. I spoke about PRDI. We need to talk about town country planning. We need to also talk about how we're going to revitalize and mobilize the public service, right? I have decided that I will get more gray hairs if I have to cuss every time the public service doesn't work the way I want, right? I empathize with the Prime Minister who came sometime recently and quarreled about the people back pay for Christmas and some permanent secretary and so on. Those experiences are universal, but I want to share with you how we will be revitalizing them and mobilizing them and motivating the public service. I want to return to talk about digitization, which is happening in this space, and how we are transforming this space using digital outputs. I want to return to talk about education and this big thing that's happening now about Tobago-centric curriculum and how that's going to transform how we do education.
And a dual track.
And dual track system, whereby vocational education is seen as just as important as traditional. I was in Roxburgh Sec last week or week before and went through with the team at Roxburgh Sec all the equipment that they're having good use, good working condition, underutilized there, and how we're going to move Roxburgh Sec from just being an ordinary secondary school to an institution that they could get technical education right up to tertiary. All of those things. So I'm coming back.
Please do.
In January, early January.
Just set your date.
Early January, so that we can go through all of the deliverables for 2024. We create the checklist, and during the year, I will just WhatsApp you and tell you, tick off this one, tick off that one, done. So you'll keep the checklist in studio as we tick off the things.
Okay, I want to commend you on this program that we did here. I really appreciate all the input, and I must say that I've been getting reports that one of the divisions in the units, Office of the Chief Secretary, Pension and Leave, they're dealing with some issues that has been bearing fruit in terms of dealing with people long-standing things and so on. I understand it's getting better and better.
In fact,
so whoever is heading that unit need to be commended, and they said they still have much more to be done.
The thing is, I've asked Assistant Secretary Williams Orr, given that she was one of the top public servants on the island prior to retiring. She was our head HR person on the island to lead us in that process. So what we're doing is a sort of central, we're moving to a kind of centralized place where this team knows you're going to get retired. We find your documents wherever they're located, from wherever division, whether they're downstairs in a dark room, downstairs in the assembly building, that CAS put there since when, because we have some public servants who started working under CAS or under Ministry of Tobago Affairs and so on, and now in the THA. Find people documents, get them their gratuities on time. By the way, teachers, we actively working on the increments and so on right now. We decided to make a decision whether we're going to keep a big school repair program or we're going to do a big payout increments and gratuities. That's the balancing act we have to do, but it's part of the job.
Farley, thanks you very much.
Yes,
Chief
no problem.
Secretary, thanks very much. And still want to thank those people in your division or Office of Chief Secretary, Pension and Leave.
Yes.
With all the work they're doing, people complain that they're now getting seen a little improvement in getting the gratuity.
Excellent workers there.
Yeah. You must commend them.
Certainly.
Thanks again, my friend.
Certainly, happy to be here.
And if I don't tell you thanks all the times when you come on, when I was at another place and you come and deputize for me,
yes.
I want to tell you thanks very much.
As a matter of fact, we can't end the show. Hold on, we can't end the show without the Tobagoans understanding. I must tell you thanks because my foray into media came because of you. I first came on a program as a guest for one of your High Five programs. And then we started having Youth High Five. And then it became a situation where I became the standing host for you when you were unavailable at High Five.
Not High Five, was spot on.
It was spot on and so on. Sorry, spot on. And because of that, that is what forced me to go and buy some blazers and things to look nice on the People TV and learn how to wear a suit and so on. So I could cut some threads, as young people say. So thank you very much for those opportunities.
And thanks to you too.
From that
and
place,
thanks for this opportunity as we continue to enlighten people. Folks, this brings us to the end of the program and the end of this series. Unfortunately, members of the opposition and the minority leader were not very favorable to this approach in getting people to understand the members of the Tobago House of Assembly, regardless of what position you hold. So we want to thank you very much. We continue with other programs on Tobago Updates Television. Look out for many things coming in the near future where we dig deep or even beyond the surface and getting to know a lot of things that is happening in our schools, our environment, and all these other important sectors in our Tobago community. Thanks to you all for all your comments, your criticisms as well, and that makes me stronger. I love that, and we're getting calls from all over the world, literally, about this program and how it is so enlightening and the different takes we take on the different issues that we touch on. Thank you again. See you very soon again on Tobago Updates. Bye.
I say thanks a favor to wake up and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people strong.